I do commander things. I work with Eminence. That's a curse jar. I work with topdeck.gg, recently changed over from Eminence. And I recently became a Dragon Shield affiliate. So I'll drop my link tree below if you want to see all the stuff I'm up to. But very excited to be here. Thank you, Jace, for having us. I'll stop hogging the spotlight for my good friend Palkatina here.
Hey, the dragon has to have his own height. Has to have his time in the sun, my friend. I'm Palkatina. I'm a moderator on the Combat Step server, and this is my first time being a caster with this lovely friend Hot Dog.
All right, but we are kicking it off here. We have a pretty interesting pod composition. 3 Tymnas. Tymna Thrasio seat 1, Yuriko seat 2, T and K in seats 3 and 4 respectively. I'm going to get some data inputted here. I have a very handy tool from Datatog where I can kind of see what the statistics of this pod comp are and have an idea of what kind of statistics and odds we are looking at. So I'm going to get that punched in here real quick. But yeah, I'm excited. Tymna, one of the top decks, but I don't know. I think it's falling out of favor. I think this is I don't want to say it's a trap commander. It's popular for a reason, but if you can just get in before that T and K deck can go off, you're going to be pretty well positioned. And I'm having some trouble finding this. Find it here.
All right,
quick.
Good. Okay,
so this exact pod composition, Thrasio seat 1, Yuriko seat 2, T and K seats 3 and 4. This is the first time ever in a command tower game that this pod has ever had this composition. And we see that Tim is off to a strong start, kicking it off with looks like Rejuvenating Springs into a Mystic Remora. Then that is looks like a Yuriko card from Maybe Bard here. Can't tell what ninja that is. Yeah, the early mornings on these tournaments, there's kind of an ease-in process with it. You are here to play. You want to start your day off with a win. But you're also waking up. You're getting the juices flowing. You're figuring out how to navigate your lines. There's a little bit of a learning curve to start on these early morning tournaments. And I say early morning. Y'all are having lunch already.
Alrighty, so keeps the Remora around.
What is that card on Yuriko's? I cannot tell.
That is an Ingenious Prodigy.
Okay, card I have to Google. We're off to a great start. I'm assuming that's an invasive attacker, be able to flip into Yuriko, and on brand, we are moving into Yuriko's combat step, activating Yuriko. I was actually talking the other day, I think Yuriko is really well positioned. It gets around a lot of the hate bears that stop you from playing things out of the command zone, such as Drannith Magistrate. Her ability gets around that. No one really wants to waste removal. But it looks like each opponent is taking 15 mana off that reveal. Is that Shadow of Mortality? What is that would equal 15 life to each opponent?
Yeah, that's a good old Shadow of Mortality.
All right, well, that's pretty sick. Redeploying
for Yuriko.
Yeah, putting every player at you just did 45 damage as Yuriko. And I think that's why this deck is so well positioned. You are going to deal a lot of damage. People love using their life totals as a resource. The best cards in the format, ad nauseum, Necropotence, they're utilizing that life total. And
that ad nauseum is pretty much off the menu for the Tymna Crom decks. Thrasios could probably is now in a better position if he can now be able to kind of just rebound from that life loss, because losing 15 life already this early is not very good for an ad nauseum player.
I mean, I've nosed from 15 before, but your probabilities are much lower. It feels pretty bad, and you've already begun to pressure life totals and turning off those key components. Especially if Crom starts swinging as well, likely swinging at the Yuriko. but you might be opportunistic and want to swing at the T&K players or the other T&K player as well.
Yeah. But once everyone out, it's going to be hard to swing in. But yeah,
it looks like we have a tutor, a vamp tutor. All right. And it looks like there was an activation in response from the Tymna Thrasios, probably holding priority on their Mystic Remora. This is a flashy game to start round one, I do have to say. A lot of big plays happening already. Okay, now that tutor is resolving. Curious what... Okay, yeah, it definitely was a tutor in response. Yeah, I mean, we're getting settled in, and 45 damage has been spread across the table. Feels great. Game actions are happening. There's nothing better than people casting their spells. This is, yeah, and I love seeing the data update in live time too. Like I said, this is a first ever pod composition. First time ever. You're seeing it here on the combat step. It across 1,000 or 15,746 games tracked on Command Tower. First time that this pod in its current composition has ever been held. Not a lot of board development from any of the players. This Mystic Remora is not doing very much. It's drawn one card so far across 2 turn cycles. Could draw more as we go, but Yuriko's really not going to play into it. They're just going to flip the top card of their library. Curious what T&K is hoping to tutor up here for. Dockside, not very good right now. Have to assume maybe a Crypt or a Ristic and start getting a draw engine into play. Even land drop Jewel Lotus for a Crom start swinging in. But yeah, I'm very curious. I've seen Willow pop up in a lot of tournaments. I'm familiar with their name. I know they're a known grinder, so they know what they're doing. But I'm excited to see what the result of this tutor is.
This is the reason I like Equa Prava in this situation, because even if you do get hit early with an early hit on the life loss, you can at least get your Adnaz back online if you need to. Because like you can just, if you get both a Equa trigger and Crom trigger, you'll get 11 life. In fact, it's not exactly uncommon for Equa Crom decks to draw their decks with an ad nauseum because their life total is so big.
All right, so we do have the Crypt. I'm 1 for 1 on guessing tutor targets right now. And I'm assuming, let's see here. Yeah, Volk, I think we're going to slam a Ristic here.
Yep,
I am good at this. That is the jumpstart art of Ristic Study. Triggered the Mystic Remora, so Mystic Remora has drawn 3 times. Looks like possible fetch at end step or in response. Yeah, it's a difficult place to be. Enlightened Tutor looks like an Enlightened Tutor to me. Difficult place to be because I mean, if you get in the counter war fighting over that Ristic Study, you're going to feed the Mystic Remora player. You're going to run out of your own cards in hand. You're gonna stop your other opponent's draw engine while feeding a different opponent. So it's a weird prisoner's dilemma to be in. And I'm going to.
That's like they don't counter the tutor, counter what they tutor. There's another Mystic Remora.
I mean, Mystic Remora and 4C, no one's really feeding the first one. So Mystic Remora probably going to feed the Ristic Study in Tymna Thrasios. Tymna Thrasios seat 1 has drawn 4 cards at this point for 2 mana, so pretty decent rate. My assumption is this Tymna Thrasios is going to let the Remora get sacked at upkeep. I can't imagine that they're keeping this around, and I think that'll result in some sort of action.
Personally, I would keep the Remora. You never know when you're going to need it, especially with another Remora in play.
The issue with keeping it around is no one's doing anything. So I mean, you'll tap out of mana, and I mean, unless you're going to deploy rocks, but deploying rocks is not going to be good into a Ristic and a Mystic. Again, it's this weird prisoner's dilemma of every card I potentially have to play is going to give you a card to play while I'm tapping out and you're going to have open mana. you don't want to feed your opponent's cards unless you can deal with those cards that your opponents have in hand. And I said it the last time I cast, and I'll say it again. Every card that you present to the table, you want to be asking the table a question, and that's the question of how are you going to deal with this. And the second you start asking questions and the table can't answer, that's when you start winning the game. If you begin to give your opponents questions to ask without having the answers, you're going to lose the game. So you don't want to feed these cards. And
yep, hey, you were right. He did crack the Remora.
Yeah, then that shows me that they drew something that is going to further their game plan faster than drawing cards, and it looks like a Rhystic Study is exactly that. Yuriko shaking their hands, but I don't know if you're Yuriko. I don't know if you're too worried. You have completely open attackers. You have the possibility of brainstorming into something. You looks like have a creature on the board, some sort of token that you can ninjutsu in. I don't know. I think these draw engine players are kind of cannibalizing each other and not pressuring Yuriko in a way that I feel they need to, especially after we just saw the swing they took.
I'm not sure Yuriko can be pressured. It's very resilient. Doesn't run ad nauseam. Like, the only thing that you can really do is just to take out their like their cheap attackers, but who really wants to waste a Chain of Vapor on a cheap attacker?
Yuriko does run ad nauseam typically. You can ad nauseam, or it depends on the build. You're right. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. But I mean, you Orcish Bowmasters, especially if with the Mystics and Rhystics out, you Orcish Bowmasters have a blocker. You can kill really any of the little idiots that the deck plays, and then you can also then you force Yuriko to have to attack other players while also getting your Orc army big, having lots of triggers, and you eventually they're just going to run out of the little idiots.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have an attack. We are triggering, and we have a Deadly Rollick. So every opponent is taking 4. Deadly Rollick is live with Yuriko on the field. I mean, I'm feeling great if I'm Yuriko right now. Everyone's so focused on drawing cards. No one's really trying to win. I feel like Yuriko right now is the only player really trying to win or further their game plan.
Yeah, I think the other Tymna players had good hand. So we got Changeling Hellcat, one of those 1-mana Changeling attackers that is ideal for a Yuriko deck. The Ninja, and it can't be blocked.
Yeah, it's another Yuriko trigger for sure, and gets through pretty easily. But again, Orcish, as much as I love drawing cards, Orcish Bowmasters right now can run away with the game. People's life totals are low. Through a turn cycle, you hope people are going to draw from the Rhystic Study. Even if they are going to draw from, you can find a wheel somehow. You can start clearing the board. You clear Yuriko, and then you can start swinging in with a 10-10, a 12-12 Orc army, and win the game.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a Crom next from William.
I don't think they need to. I mean, they could. They would have to play a land and then completely tap out to play Crom, and they already have a draw engine out on the field. If I'm Willow right now, I am trying to just dig for a tutor or tutor up a win for my next turn. Again, Dockside notably not great for Willow right now. I'm maybe even looking for a wheel, something to force some sort of action. Tymna Thrasios has 8 cards in hand, a full grip. They'll draw a card if you play a wheel. Playing a Crom right now seems a little. Looks like a command tower. Seems a little. You can turn on Fierce Guardianship. You can turn on Deflecting Swap, but you're also going shields down to have another draw engine. I think we're seeing a Tymna here.
Yep.
Which that makes sense to me. You have 1 mana open, so that tells me that Willow likely has a Swan Song or a Flusterstorm, some sort of 1-mana interaction in hand, even a Mystical Tutor at end step at the end of Yuriko's turn. But that signals to me that they are keeping some shields up. And on the contrary, Mint paying for this Mystic Remora, that's telling me there's nothing good in hand. They're needing to find something. They're digging. They're in seat 4. They know this isn't looking good. I think Willow and Yuriko are the best positioned players right now. The right side of the table is really my point of focus. And we can see that clearly just looking at the tables. The left side of the table really doesn't have any sort of board development. They have a lot of cards in hand, but now late game, they're going to have to start developing their boards. And when you're developing your board into a Mystic Remora and Heuristic Study, you're creating this 3v1 where your opponents are going to just, as a whole, draw more cards than you. You're going to lose that game. This is the classic mulling for Heuristic or Mystic trap that sometimes you can fall into, and I'm guilty of it as well, and I've definitely done it in tournament settings before. But you don't want to develop your board in the mid or late game. People have their draw engines online. People are sifting through the cards they don't want. This is a tough situation for the left side of the table.
That 15 light flip really put the pressure on their clock, put the clock on very fast. Oh, we got Thrasios from high.
I like seeing Thrasios here, followed by a Mox Amber. You have 3 mana. You might have a Elvish Spirit Guide to have a Thrasios activation. But we might just be dumping cards out at the risk of feeding our opponents just to make sure that we don't have to discard.
Yeah, we got a...
Discarding, is that a Hope of Girapur?
Huh.
That's kind of a spicy inclusion. I kind of like that a lot.
It's kind of weird in it. It's understandable at the same time because if you're like in that only play one, there's like one blue player, you can swim Hope of Girapur, sack and silence them, pretty much every single other player.
Silence on a stick that doesn't need colored mana, and it can be a Tymna attacker. I have my thoughts on Tymna Thrasios as a deck, not even as a reflection of this player, just as a deck as a whole. And I think if we're trying to brew and trying to be creative with this deck, I like seeing things like Hope of Girapur. Especially, but I mean, you have Arms Chant, you have Silence. You have Grand Abolisher, you have Ranger Captain. I don't know if this deck needs it, but I am a Hope of Girapur enjoyer. We have attacks. Assuming there's a ninjutsu trigger, getting that Karlov Manor card out for a ninja. That is what we're seeing here.
Going in a
Ninja of the Deep Hours, which will draw him a card as well. So we're going to have 3 ninja triggers. I mean, this could be game. Granted, there's a luck component to it, but this very well could be game.
Let's just see. His draws have so far been good. Let's see what he gets. Hold on. I seen priority on the damage.
Yeah, waiting to see. We're pathing the. My assumption is the Yuriko. The interesting thing too, now that Yuriko has, if they have some other mana somehow, they can still activate the ninjutsu because we are.
There was
attacks.
A leftover for that.
But it looks like we're searching our library.
One open source in Path puts the.
Oh yeah, we're getting a basic land, but it's going to enter tapped, I believe, from Path to Exile. There we go. Yep. No way to cheat it in.
Yeah, he did not have any interaction to get the Yuriko out. It's not the worst for Bard.
Okay, so we got our basic from Yuriko, 2 damage. You will draw a card off the Ninja of the Deep Hours. Yeah, I mean it's a tricky position to be in. I would assume if I'm in Mint's seat that Willow might have. I don't know if I'm in second in priority to that. Oh, looks like hey Judge, seat one's on their phone. I don't know if we can address that.
Yeah,
You cannot be on your phone.
Who of the four players was it?
Seat one was on their phone texting,
Okay.
which you
minute.
cannot do.
Yeah.
You cannot do. What is up, Papa Squats in the chat? Thank you for popping a squat in the chat. What is up, gamer? They are redeploying their MKM card that I don't know what it does. Playing that, and I think just passing turn. All right, so Timna Crom third seat is untapping with a Timna, Ristic Study, and Mana Crypt, presumably losing their Crypt flip with an odds. And let's go. We have some thinking going on here. A lot of options, a lot of mana open. I don't know if they're thinking about maybe a top deck tutor to go for and be able to get it off of the team or the Timna draw. But yeah, we're here waiting to see some action. It does have a Mystic Remora and a Risk Study 2 playthrough. Seeing some action here. We might be seeing the Crom now to draw 2 cards off of it. No, we're going for a Soul Ring. That'll triggered some draws here. Tables are drawing. 1 colorless floating from the Timnic Crom player. Waiting to see. I mean, there's really no wins being put on the stack quite yet. People are just happy accruing their value right now. This is the mid-range hell that everyone's talking about, where no one's really winning. But we have a Dranith, which I do like. You're gonna shut off the Timna. You completely shut out the TNK. Yuriko does not care about that, but you have insurance against breach lines. You basically just neutered seat 4 with that Drana.
It does, however, shut off the Nazi combo with Enter the Infinite.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I know what that is. I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I know what that is. I'm not worried about that. If I'm playing Dranith, I'm not thinking about that. And I think Yuriko, when you're looking at these life totals, is not worried about that either. I'm a Nashi enjoyer. Shout out to It's Me Scoots. Scoots is playing with Nashi in a tournament in New York right now. Very, very cool deck. We have the Dranith drawing a card off the Timna. Game 2, lose 1. Incremental life gain. That might be relevant. If he wins by 1 life, he's going to feel really good about that lifelink moving to discard. Discarding a Wooded Foothills, passing the turn. We are paying for the Mystic Remora. This is, again, telegraphing to the table. I don't have anything. I'm desperate. I'm digging. I need something. Mint is putting on full blast that they are scratching and clawing to get into this game and need any action just to get it going. Still in upkeep. I don't think we drew for turn yet. Not sure what we're waiting on. I think seat 4 might be, they were checking something on their computer. Not sure if they're looking at their deck list, but again, you cannot do that. I don't know if judges want to address that, but if you are in a game, even on webcam, same rules apply as if you're in paper. You cannot look at your deck list or look at your deck in any way. Just a heads up, judges, I believe that was happening. So we played the Mana Crypt. Timothy Thrasios has 10 cards at hand. I mean, they can probably win a counterfight if they just try the Thoracle. Oh, geez. Okay, we have a Toxic Deluge. That is pretty damn good right now. And I think that's some of the action that Mint was looking for, just to get their game plan going. Notably, Toxic Deluge, way worse at these low life totals that we have. Yuriko, I think, stands to lose the most from this. They are shut off out of a combat step. Also, thank you for turning into the combat step channel. They are turned off of a combat step with their commander slowing down their game plan. Yuriko costs 5 if they needed to hardcast it. They need to deploy the little idiots to make sure that they can negate that commander tax with the ninjutsu ability. Losing the Drin is also maybe sneaky good for the table, especially Mint. If Mint can somehow draw a bunch of cards and get a reach line going on their next turn, they're not out of the running now. And I think this is the sort of thing that they were digging for. You clear the board, you have your Mystic Remora out, you hope everyone has to redeploy into it, you fill your hand, breach LED, GG's. All right. We have a lot of deep thinking on this toxic deluge. Looks like it is resolving. People packing up their creatures, bidding them. Yeah. I mean, you cut Timna Thrasios off of 1 mana as well with the Mox Amber. That's a non-zero impact on board development and resources. Still have a Ristic Study to play through, but they very well could just try to jam some sort of win. I don't even know what that card is. Can anyone tell me? Oh, is that a Worldly Tutor? That might be a Worldly Tutor at end step. Okay. What am I tutoring for? You might just be tutoring for an Abolisher of sorts. You put a Grand Abolisher and you have 11 cards in hand, go to 10, draw the Abolisher. You can play the Abolisher, hit a land drop, and just Thoracle Consult, win the game.
Oh.
Very high possibility that this game could just be over. This is I think, the window that if you can force some sort of action, you go for it. And I think the table is in agreement with the politicking on the stack right now. We're still waiting on the resolution of this Worldly Tutor. Looks like we are fighting over the tutor.
Yeah, that
will possibly pitching.
it's an
intuition in response to the. I see. Intuition getting countered. I'm not sure how the Ristic Study was removed. I must have missed that. Oh, I see. I understand. I think that was an Abrupt Decay, not a Worldly Tutor. Abrupt Decay targeting the Ristic Study. Okay, that tells me that they're going to try to go for a win, which is on track for what I think is the right play. So Abrupt Decay on the Ristic Study, Intuition Response, Force of Will, pitching a Biomancer's Familiar to counter the Intuition. And we are at the discard cleanup step for the TNK player in 4th seat, and we are moving to Timna Thrasios' turn. So removing that Ristic Study, I think that's signaling that we're going for it. But Esper Sentinel,
a weird choice.
Table seems fine with it.
Yeah, Krax's Blooded Strand.
Tutoring. Searching up a land. Still don't have that Mox Amber online. No legendaries on the field. We're back to square one with that Toxic, which is probably by design for Mint to stay in this game here. And we are fetching up is that a Post Malone Island? Is that a basic land? I cannot tell. Okay, no, that's a Tundra.
If he's still going to try and go for the win, he's going to have to deal with the Mystic Remora. That's
it's
3 times.
Yeah, I think that's a Smothering Tide. That makes sense. You're hoping. I mean, people obviously are going to have to draw cards. No one's going to be paying for this. I think Willow stands to gain the most out of that. They were going to be the ones that were going to have to interact with a win attempt, and now they don't have to. That seems pretty good for them. Yuriko's back in the saddle here, waiting to see that they're going to have to play the little idiots out and start really trying to get it going here.
Yeah, they have to get their board back up, and they were nearly on the cusp of winning, but that Toxic Tellers really took the wind out of their sails. If I were him, I would just try to get some more unblockable dudes out and or get Yuriko out again. In fact, I wouldn't rule out hard casting Yuriko because
I don't know about that. It's 5 mana just to have a 1/3 and hope it wheels. I don't think you're going to be seeing another turn. I think you're either going to have to really just deploy your board or
run the commander tax.
Yeah, you have 4 cards in hand. I don't think hard casting Yuriko is the play. And if that is the play, if that's your only game action to take, you're completely out of gas. All right, so we are seeing what our lines are. The fact that we're not seeing the little 1/1 idiots get deployed, I think just we're signposting we're out of this game. There was a window at a certain point. If there was counter magic, it was going to be spent on that toxic just to stay in the game. You needed that Draenith out. You needed your board to be out, and if you're Yuriko, I mean, it feels bad, but I think you're sitting there going, "There's nothing I can do." And it's a shame too because they really had a strong start to this game. I was pretty impressed by how quickly that steamrolled with the Yuriko attacks, but you've just kind of lost your momentum here, and it's very hard to rebuild. And if you do rebuild, you're feeding a Rhystic, potentially feeding a Mystic. I think they're signaling, "I'm done. I'm out of this game." And I'm not sure what this main phase politicking is.
No, they called the judge for something. Not sure what. What has to be explained, or if it's a call for the rules or slow play or what. I'm not sure why the judge was called.
I'm wondering if the Smothering Tithe trigger was missed, and then he goes, "Oh, I'm going to make the treasure." I don't know if that is the point of contention. That's the only thing in terms of game actions or triggers that I could see impacting, but I'm sure we will find out when the judge returns. But for the viewers at home, there is a judge call currently on the stack waiting for a resolution. Also, real quick, Judge, was it a relevant judge call? Just out of morbid curiosity?
It was just a problem that one of the players was getting the hand off camera. So they called me to just advise him, since it was just real fast and nothing kind of suspicious. I just warned him, and we will be checking on if he continues doing it.
Understood. Okay, thank you, Judge. Huge shout out to our judges, too. It is not an easy thing to judge, especially over spell table. There's an added layer of complexity to this. Extremely thankful for them. We genuinely, events as a whole could not be run without judges. The blue-black split card.
That's a weird one. That is a...
Looks like it's a Consign to Oblivion, one of the ones that Yuriko loves to see hit, because if you flip into that with a Yuriko trigger, it counts both sides of the cards, which makes those cards significantly more powerful in your deck, because Consign is typically a playable card. You can bounce something, but then you can flip it and get, I think it's 7 damage off Yuriko, so either way, it's a pretty decent card for Yuriko to have, both in value and in playability.
Yeah, for sure.
So we are playing 2 mana at sorcery speed. Notably, Consign is an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. It looks like we are casting it targeting the Smothering Tithe, and we didn't fight over that.
We got a Mystic Remora.
TNT does not need that, followed by a Mystic Remora. We have seen a Rhystic or Mystic from every player now.
Yeah.
Looks like hitting the Smothering Tithe is interesting, but it makes sense when it's followed by a Mystic Remora. You want to draw cards. You don't want them to pile out a bunch of treasure.
Yeah, especially with a Thrasios player, because Tymna Thrasios loves to have mana so that they can just dump it into Thrasios in case something goes wrong. Still mystifies me that high in none of the players were able to go for a win even after drawing so many cards.
This is the mid-range hell that we're currently stuck in. It's something that I'm guilty of the opposite. I try to jam wins way too hard, but people, you want to play to win. You don't want to play to not lose. And if you're not trying to further your game plan to win the game, you're just going to hand it to another player. I'm in agreement with you where no one's really pressuring anymore in any sort of way. No one really seems like they are.
These all three decks are in the mid range now. Yuriko can do early turbo like it did, but if it can't, it can then transition into just trying to draw cards with its commander now. I think we got a draw trigger on the or cards in hand.
It's looking like there's a question on whether they're paying for Sentinel and Study.
Yeah, can't pay. You have every spellcast now is going to have 3 triggers minimum, some 4. Mystic, Ristic, Esper, Ristic Buddy, or Mystic Buddy. So we are imprinting a card that I cannot tell what's being imprinted under.
He imprinted a gamble underneath his Chrome box, so he doesn't need to go get. He's got something in hand. If he's pitching the gamble, he doesn't feel he needs to go grab a card, and he's got a full grip of mana, full grip of his colors, so he must have either interaction or a good part of what he feels he needs, and he may be in a position to just close it out with the amount of cards he has. He has 8 cards in hand.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, and there's something that Brian Koval always says: your opponents will always tell you what's in their hand if you are astute enough to listen. If you are watching the table, if you are reading the signposts that your opponents are giving you, you can know what's in your opponent's hand. And just like Jay said, seeing that gamble imprinted on the Chrome Mox, my opponent is communicating to me, I don't need this tutor. It is not part of my game plan. It's not relevant to me. This 1 red mana, this Simian Spirit Guide is more important to me than having this this gamble, this tutor in hand.
I think in a breach.
I mean, it would be odd to do a breach after having imprinted the gamble.
Oh, we got Wish Claw.
We might just be going for it with the Oracle or setting up for next turn. You do have enough mana. You do have enough mana to Wishclaw, Oracle Console, or Cane Pact with Silence backup.
I think he was. It paid for both of the Ristic Stay. Actually, no, I think he may have drawn on. Paid for one of the Ristic Stay triggers.
This is a situation which Bowmasters would just be having a field day right now.
Oh.
Notably, Mint might be able to get out of this. They're first in priority with T and K in 3rd seat casting spells. He could just pass. I mean, I've lost games with an interaction in hand. I'm fine admitting that, live to the world. I'm fine losing the game if my other opponents are also fine losing the game. If I am next in priority and I know that my other opponent has a Ristic Study and I'm looking and I go, okay, they have 13 cards in hand, I have 10 cards in hand, I can counter this spell, or I can pass and hope that there's a 13 out of 98 chance that they have counter magic. I'll take that. I'll pass priority. I'm fine dying with interaction in hand.
Yeah. It's the power of using your opponents to trying to use your opponents to help your advantage out, because one of the things that you dream of with them with a Mythical Morin plays there as a counter breaking.
There's the Lion's Eye Diamond, and he has the Intuition already in his graveyard and a Wishclaw Talisman with lots of mana. He may have the Underworld in hand, or he may pop that Wishclaw, go get it, and attempt to go off.
I think that Lion's Eye is bait. I don't think they need it to win. I think they're hoping to have the MBT or something hit that LED, activating Wishclaw. Notably, Wishclaw can be activated at instant speed, so say you're in a situation where you need to counterspell, you can grab it with that Wishclaw and try to protect whatever you're needing to protect, given if it's a mental misstep, what have you, MBT, whatever you need at instant speed.
It is a little dangerous if you cast your Underworld Breach and then maintain priority in crack. That's a little dangerous, though.
Yeah, there's probably no situation in which you put Lion's Eye.
No, I meant
because you'll lose that on mana.
Yeah. I was thinking of a different card. It was a Yawgmoth's Well, which can allow him to play cards from his graveyard, but that's not the play I would go for.
Yeah, there'd be no reason to Yawgwill.
I really appreciate that Willow has the face cam because this allows him to shuffle. And even though on the traditional cam, we cannot fully see his hands, on the face cam, we can clearly see where he's looking. We can see everything around him, and we can see his deck, which I think is huge for online tournament play. Is just visibility says it all, right? Like if you can see what your opponents are doing, it helps you to make sure there are no questions about possible moves or like if someone is adding anything to the deck. And I appreciate that he has that out on this pod, so it is very transparent what's taking place, and we can see a little bit of his lap, so there's no question whatsoever.
To answer the question in chat, I replied to you via text, but the card with all the dice in it in seat 1's position is a Rhystic Study. It is the jumpstart art of Rhystic Study, and the player has the dice on there to indicate the amount of cards in their hand. But yeah, it's, I use the Judge promo art because I'm a Chad like that, but the jumpstart is pretty cool too.
I like the jumpstart art myself, but do you like the Seaborn Muse art from like the Commander Master Collections Green?
I do. I think that's the one I use. The weird monk guy. I like that guy.
Yeah, I don't like the other one from like 5th edition that has her arms kind of like going back. That makes her look silly.
That's right. I believe it's from Scourge. Looks like Lion's Eye Diamond is resolving. Either people are sandbagging or just have nothing, and I think we're about to see a Grand Abolisher. We are seeing a Thassa's Oracle. I still think this is bait. You can cast a Demonic Consultation, it gets countered, and then you Underworld Breach with mana left over. We might be seeing the end of this game, though, potentially.
Yep. Hold on, just depends on... Yep, Thassa's Oracle. Now we got the trigger. We get the Tainted Pact. There's no crown. Be forced to draw. Tainted Pact. That's the priority pass.
So if they pay for this Rhystic Study, that tells me they don't have backup. They don't have a Swan Song. They don't have a Flusterstorm. They don't have a Spell Pierce. Whatever random toolboxy thing T&K might have, they do not have.
Yeah.
We do finally, my favorite thing in the world, have a win on the stack, and it looks like opponents are passing priority. At least Yuriko is signaling that they are passing priority.
Hal's doing some looking, but with that many cards in hand, either he has something or he doesn't here. Bouncing the Thassa's Oracle, if that trigger is on the stack, isn't going to help him. If he's got an Otawara, the trigger will still resolve. So if he doesn't have a hard counter here, it's pretty much it. Or he can Tainted Pact for his own and try to do some digging with some of that, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
We have a Tainted Pact in response. Okay.
More Rhystic Remoras. This is what the Mint and May are dreaming. Trying to draw more cards to possibly get their own wins.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if I'm Mint or if I'm Yuriko, I'm sitting back. I'm letting these two guys duke it out. I'm letting them cannibalize each other's resources, and then I'm just going to try to jam my own win attempt. It looks like Tainted Pact grabbed an MBTing the Tainted Pact. I liked Willow's... I think that was very patient play by Willow. I don't mind that. It's hard... I think a lot of players in Willow's position look down the barrel of a gun and go, okay, my opponents have cards in hand, and just don't try. But you're statistically more likely to get the win if you try to win than just not going for it. And I think that was a very methodical, patient play.
Yeah, and you can't hold up your win in fear of somebody like Hal having 10 cards, and then you pass the turn and the next player wins, and it turns out Hal had a bunch of lands and mana rocks and you could have won. I would never let the fear of cards stop me from attempting to win, even if I know I don't have any backup. Sometimes you just have to go for it because the game, you may get lucky. You know, Hal's hand could be just complete no interaction, and then you may win. And if not, at least you're burning interaction in a deck like T and K. Even if your intuition and whatnot ends in your graveyard, you still have ways to get it back, so it's not totally over for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a good observation. But yeah, it looks like the counter war has resolved. We have a value Thassa's Oracle, which was the game plan that I'm sure Willow wanted. I'm not going to count out Yuriko. I think if Yuriko can live to see another turn, they have a Wishclaw. You should be able to piece together a win with having drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. You've basically wheeled yourself and have a tutor in play. I mean, that feels pretty damn good.
I agree, and
right,
we know that Hal doesn't have very much more interaction because he had a tutor to go get the interaction, so that tells you he likely didn't have any. So if Yuriko's got one of the two pieces and they just Wishclaw for the other, Yuriko themselves could pull off a Thassa's Oracle type combo win because your opponents fought over it and now show you there's really nothing left. Willow would have countered that if he had a counter if he really wanted to win, and that tells you that Willow probably doesn't either.
Exactly. Yeah. Every again.
Yeah.
You know, like my theme of the day is your opponents will tell you what's in their hand if you care enough to listen. And that is not my line. That is Bosch and Roll, Brian Koval, my main man, Brian. Shout out to Brian. You just won the Legacy Cup. And these are the things when I'm sitting at the table at a tournament that I'm looking at, I'm reading, I'm trying to figure out what my opponents have in their hands without them telling me. It looks like we have a Vamp tutor at upkeep, feeding the Rhystic, feeding the Mystic. I like that. I like seeing these tutors. I like seeing people try to play things out. Hal and C1 bleeding their hand a little bit. I think I saw a Pact of Negation in that hand bleed. That's another thing you want to be mindful of, folks playing in webcam tournaments. Be mindful of the hand positioning and your webcam angle. You want to have your full field of play in view. You do not want to be giving your opponents free information. And if they can see what's in your hand, you're gonna really, really shoot yourself in the foot. Mental misstep on the Vamp tutor at upkeep, drawing from Mystic Remora. Hal, I think, is in the full driver's seat right now. They have a commanding position in terms of card advantage over their opponents.
There's no doubt about that. Tymna Thrasios is the king of mid-game game cards because there's so many ways.
We're definitely in a 2020 throwback. I have not seen Tymna Thrasios played in a tournament or placed in a tournament since Punt City 2 by Dan Brooks when they top 16'd with Tymna Thrasios, and that was a year ago. And Dan Brooks, so it looks like we have a dockside on the field. Dockside count looks like 3, 4, 5, 10.
Oh, that's a big dockside.
Seems pretty good. Funny thought experiment. This is a little off topic, but one of the play groups that I'm in, we did a challenge to see if Flash was still competitively viable in the year 2023, 2024. And Mikey, one of the owners of TopDeck.gg, who makes Command Tower software, he was playing Tymna Thrasios and with Flash, with all modern day cards, Delighted Halfling, Orcish Bowmasters, what have you. And we found that Flash really wasn't that scary anymore. And I'm willing, again, say this in a public forum. You come to listen to this stuff for my hot takes. That's why we're here. We want good content and hot takes. Flash 2024 is not good. The card quality that you need to make Flash good, Protein Hulk's not a good card. Protein Hulk can be pitched to Endurance. That's like the best thing Protein Hulk can do.
Yeah.
Your card quality degrades so much to get your Hulk package that it's like basically unplayable. I think he went... And I consider Mikey a very good player. I think he went like 1-9 out of 10 games trying to make Flash work, and the win he had was like barely a Flash win, if I remember correctly. The card is fine to get unbanned. We have so much more free interaction in terms of Force of Negation, Fierce Guardianship. People are playing Mind Break Trap now. Flash, at least in competitive Commander, is not a problem anymore.
Yeah, I will also. Oh, we got Phyrexian Metamorph. That's undoubtedly going to be a Dockside.
It also could be a Wishclaw.
It is all true.
Could see a reality where that is a Dockside. Or, excuse me, where that's a Wishclaw. It does not look like that's the case. But you can Phyrexian Metamorph, turn it into a Wishclaw, tutor up your win.
Mm-hmm. I think we got another Dockside because I see 20 treasures there.
Oh, that's true. Deck says it could have just been a Thorkel, and you just go for the win. That's a very good point. It's a very good point.
Yeah. 20 treasures. He's cracking 5 for a Sonic.
Okay, looks like we're following up with an Imperial Seal.
Yep.
I have to applaud Mint. I think if this is a win and you have a Gitaxian Probe or you Tymna Crom to crack this Imperial Seal, I have to applaud this player. This player in 4th seat got schlacked, did an amazing job with the Toxic Deluge. They have been one of the most patient players I have seen in a very long time. We are final fortuning. This is 100% them. Obviously, it's them going for it. They have to go for it. But I have to applaud how patient this player has been all game. And I think, if there's any main takeaway to extrapolate players, kids at home, new cEDH players, is if you can get through these players cannibalizing each other and you're sitting there, you're going, okay, that free interaction was used. That player drew a bunch of cards, but that free interaction was used. That free interaction was used. That free interaction was used. This player in 4th seat who had the most to lose at any given point and was just patiently paying for their Mystic Remora is now going to their final fortune turn with their opponent's boards cleared out with, again, patient play.
There's also, if you look, no mana except for 1 blue from Willow, but that final fortune would have undoubtedly gotten countered from Willow if he had any interaction at all. Going to his mana crypt, he does take the 3. Not exactly.
We are in their last turn.
Yeah. Got a land. He is double blue. There's the Thassa's. Oh, what is this?
Grand Abolisher.
Oh, just
double white mana. Every player passing on that. We have won the game. Mint has won it. I'm fine to say it. You don't lead with a Grand Abolisher otherwise. They have 10 mana and treasure.
10 treasure. No, they have 10 treasures.
We have an intuition. We're breaching. Let's go. The breach pile you grab, I'm sure as everyone at home knows, LED, Underworld Breach, and Savine's Reclamation. Does not matter which permutation you grab that in. They give you the Savine's Rec, you just cast it, get the Underworld Breach, you get the Lion's Eye Diamond, you crack that, fill your yards, flashback Savine's Rec, grab the Underworld Breach, or if they give you Underworld Breach, you just win the game. Congrats, Mint. You have a Grand Abolisher and you intuitioned. Patient play. It doesn't look like any opponent really has the mana to do a sort of Otawara. Opponents are just kind of giving the thumbs up here. I think they've resigned themselves to their fate. One thing I do want to say, if you're in a tournament game, force your opponent to play it out a little. Maybe they'll mess up the line somehow. A lot of people are so used to shortcutting that sometimes they just goof. But looks like these opponents are all kind of like, okay, we've been playing. We're almost at time. We're cool with this. Amazing stuff to see. That was a game. That was a roller coaster type game. This is why you come to the combat step. This is why you follow Commander content. That was an incredible showing by all of the decks, and it looks like we called it. Savine's Rec, Underworld Breach, Lion's Eye Diamond, all of those cards still in library. Opponents packing it up. Good luck.
Oh, where's the brain free?
It doesn't matter. I mean, you just dig for it.
Yeah. He can also
intuition. You have an intuition in your graveyard. You're fine.
I think everyone's scooping up. That's our game.
What a game! That was a extremely swingy game. I mean, that was I was when we started that game. I really felt that Mint had the worst board position, and they ran away with it and were able to win the game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Incredible showing. Super impressed by all the players. Loved seeing how they navigated the. I mean, there's a lot of complicated math that goes into all of the draw engines that were in play, and the fact that they, you know, they worked to navigate that the best they could. I thought Willow's window that they went for was an incredible window. Obviously, Mint's window was the one to go for it. Let them win the game. Largely, hugely impressed by the patience of that player.
Thank you for the chat for suggesting the round timer. You ask, we please.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Where is that?
It is on the stream. I added people in the chat were asking for that, and so I was like, I think we can work with that.
Oh shit, that's sick, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So since our first pod has ended and the round is getting ready to wrap up, we are going to take a little bit of a break. So those of you who are watching, you may want to go to the bathroom, hydrate, get some snacks, stretch your legs, and round 2 will be beginning in just a little bit. As far as I know, no pods have any extensions other than the initial 5-minute extension we gave to the overall tournament because we had a little hiccup in the beginning. So rounds should be going to the next turn here in next round should begin here in probably the next 5-10 minutes. So thank you for watching. If you are in the chat, thank you for the suggestion in the chat for the round time, and we will be back in a little while for round 2.